Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I never thought a simple grocery run could leave a scar on me. But to this day, I can't walk into a warehouse store without feeling my stomach clench, my pulse quicken, and my eyes darting toward the aisles as if someone's waiting for me there. Back in the summer of 2019, I was 24, living in a mid-sized town called North Point, Washington. North Point isn't the kind of place you'd find on a travel brochure. It sits in the shadow of bigger cities like Tacoma and Seattle, a stopover town people only mention when they talk about gas stations off the interstate, or the one big thing that drew most locals in, the Costco. That warehouse store was like its own world. People drove from 3 towns over to stock up. Families came in vans and SUVs, leaving with carts stacked to the ceiling. My dad used to joke that Costco was the closest thing we had to a community center. Weddings, funerals, storms. No matter what was happening, people were always there buying bottled water, pizza, or those ridiculously cheap hot dogs. For a long time, I never had a membership. I was living on my own in a small apartment above an old laundromat downtown. It was cramped, smelled faintly of detergent, and the water heater made this rattling noise that could wake me up at night. But it was cheap, and at 24, cheap mattered more than anything. I just started working nights at a manufacturing plant that built parts for heavy equipment. The pay wasn't great, but it kept me afloat. Most nights I came home dead tired, threw something in the microwave, and crashed on the old couch I dragged up the stairs. It was around that time that my buddy Sean, a guy I'd known since community college, convinced me to split a Costco membership with him. "Come on, man," he told me one Friday night while we were hanging out on my balcony with a couple of beers. "It'll pay for itself. Gas is cheaper. Rotisserie chicken is like $5. And dude, their pizza massive. You can live off it for a week." I laughed. "I don't even own a freezer big enough for all that crap, doesn't matter." He shrugged. "It's worth it. I'll put you on my family plan, half the cost. You're practically robbing me if you say no." And so I said yes. I figured why not? At first it felt like a good move. I could fill up my tank cheaper, grab a few bulk items, and sometimes I even picked up their giant packs of muffins for work. But as months passed, it became more about convenience than saving money. Especially because I had a habit, one that people always teased me about. I liked shopping late at night. It wasn't some cool night owl thing. I just couldn't stand the crowds. The screaming kids pulling their parents toward candy racks. The lines of frustrated people tapping their feet while the cashier called for a price check. I hated it all. At night, though, everything was quieter, easier. That's how I ended up at Costco the night everything changed. It was late July, one of those heat wave weeks where the air feels like soup even after the sun goes down. My apartment didn't have AC, just a busted box fan I'd found at a thrift shop. That night, sweat stuck to me like a second skin. My fridge was basically empty. Just a few cans of cheap beer, ketchup, and an old bag of lettuce that looked like it had been forgotten in a science experiment. I thought about ordering takeout, but I couldn't stomach the idea of another greasy burger. Instead, I figured I'd swing by Costco before closing, grab a rotisserie chicken, maybe some water bottles, maybe a frozen pizza or two. It was all ready. After 8:30 when I pulled into the parking lot. The place closed at 9:30, so I figured I'd have time to get in and out quick. The lot was maybe a third full, bathed in the strange orange glow of the setting sun. The building itself loomed like a massive windowless fortress. I parked near the far side, away from the other cars. As soon as I stepped out, the heat hit me again, thick, suffocating. The black top still radiated the day's burn. I wiped sweat from my forehead and made my way inside. The automatic doors hissed open, letting out a wave of cold air that felt like stepping into another world. Inside, it was quiet in a way that didn't feel right. The hum of freezers, the squeak of a cartwheel somewhere. Overhead announcements echoed into empty space. Most of the shoppers left were couples finishing up or employees restocking shelves. I grabbed a cart and started toward the back. That's when I noticed them. A group of 3 younger guys hanging around the food court near the entrance. One wore a gray hoodie with the hood pulled up despite the heat. He kept glancing around like he was expecting someone. The other two sat slouched at a table, scrolling their phones. I didn't think much of it, teens being teens. I went on my way, headed toward the refrigerated section, grabbed a case of bottled water, some eggs, chips I didn't need. I had my headphones in, listening to a podcast, half zoned out. That's probably why I didn't notice the man at first. I was standing in front of the freezer doors, debating between pepperoni or combo pizza, when I caught movement in the reflection of the glass. Someone ducking behind a stack of crates near the back wall. I turned, earbuds dangling. Nobody there. Probably an employee, I muttered to myself, but my stomach felt tight. I pushed on, cart rattling against the polished floor. By the time I reached the produce section, I felt it in that sensation you can't explain. The one where you know you're being watched. I turned my head slowly. There he was, about 20 FT away, half hidden behind a stack of watermelons. A man, mid-30s, maybe older, black baseball cap, dark shirt, jeans, not an employee, not browsing, just standing there watching me. And when my eyes met his, he didn't look away. I swallowed, my throat dry. I pushed my cart faster, heading toward the checkout lanes. Two were open, one with a woman unloading a mountain of groceries, the other with a young cashier ringing up an older man. I picked the second one as I placed items on the belt. I glanced back. He was closer now, leaning casually against a stack of soda, still staring. And behind him, the guy in the gray hoodie from earlier, also staring. My pulse spiked. "Hey," I whispered to the cashier, a lanky kid with a nervous face. "I think somebody's following me." He looked up, saw the men. His face drained of color. Hold on." He grabbed a radio. "Security checkout 3. Got a situation." Static. No reply. He tried again. Still nothing. The woman in front of me glanced back, saw the man, and muttered, "Nope, not tonight." She grabbed her kid's hand and bolted out, leaving her cart behind. The cashier leaned toward me. "Listen, man, don't go through the front. Go out the side fire exit by the paper towels now." I didn't argue. I left my cart bolted toward the side aisle. As I passed the bakery, another man stepped out from behind stacked flour bags. Same dark clothes, same stare. My legs moved before my brain caught up. I ducked into the cleaning supplies aisle, heart slamming in my chest. Footsteps followed, quick, heavy. I yanked the emergency exit. An alarm shrieked. Night air hit me, like a wall as I stumbled into the loading area. "Hey," voices behind me. I sprinted along the concrete wall, rounding the corner toward the front lot. My car was far, too far, but then headlights. A security SUV rounded the corner. The man chasing me skidded to a stop, then turned and bolted into the dark. The SUV pulled up. A stocky woman jumped out, flashlight in hand. "You okay? What the hell's going on? 3 guys inside chasing me?" I panted. She grabbed her radio, called for backup. Within minutes, police cars rolled in, red and blue flashing across the lot. They swept the building, found nothing. Not one of them, just shaken employees and a manager swearing he'd never seen the men before. The cops took my statement, asked me to describe the men, and when I did, one officer exchanged a glance with another because apparently the descriptions matched suspects in a string of robberies and assaults at big box stores across Washington and Oregon. But they were always gone before anyone could catch them. That night I went home and locked every window, every door. Didn't sleep. Didn't renew my membership when it expired. And to this day, when I step into a warehouse store, Costco, Sam's, anywhere, I feel my gut tighten because I know what it means when someone's watching you from the shadows of an empty aisle. I know how fast things can turn, and how sometimes nobody comes when you call. I should have never gone back to North Point Costco. I had always liked routine. It made the world feel manageable and predictable. I'm 26, and I'd been working at the Costco in Cedar Ridge, a sleepy Midwestern town in Iowa, for nearly 8 months now. My name's Nolan, and before this I'd bounced around. A few jobs in retail and warehouses after college, trying to find something steady. The Cedar Ridge Costco wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough, and the night shift suited me. I could keep to myself, listen to music while stacking pallets, and not deal with too many people after 9 p.m. The town itself was quiet, the kind of place where everyone waved at each other in the grocery store, and the streets were mostly empty after dusk. I liked it. It felt safe, or at least I thought it did. I remember that night vividly. It was a Thursday in mid-July, humid and sticky, the kind of summer heat that made fluorescent lighting in a warehouse feel almost suffocating. I had clocked in at 5 p.m. like usual. My coworkers trickled in around the same time. Marcus, a lanky guy with dark hair who had a dry sense of humor. Ethan, quiet, tall, always focused on his work. And Clara, a seasoned employee who seemed like she'd worked at every Costco in the Midwest at least once. There was also Maya, a new hire, energetic but slightly jumpy, who reminded me a bit of myself when I started. "Man, it's brutal out there," Marcus muttered as we unloaded a shipment of bulk water bottles. "Feels like we're melting before we even touch the pallets." "Yeah," I said, wiping sweat from my forehead. "I swear the AC in here barely works. It's like working inside a sauna." Clara rolled her eyes. "Get used to it. Summer in Cedar Ridge isn't forgiving." I smiled politely and focused on scanning boxes. The store was mostly quiet at first. Night shifts were predictable. Stock shelves, tidy displays, and keep an eye on the cameras. Simple, safe. But around 9:45 p.m., something shifted. I was pushing a cart loaded with bulk laundry detergent toward aisle 12 when I noticed the first odd thing. A man in a gray hoodie walking slowly past the registers. He didn't have a basket, didn't pick up anything, just wandered. At first I thought he was a shopper. Then I realized the store was practically empty. There were only 3 other customers near the electronics section. I frowned. "Marcus," I said quietly, leaning toward him as we stacked water bottles. "Is that a new customer? He's kind of lingering." Marcus glanced up. "Haven't seen him before. Maybe just lost. Lots of people driving in from the interstate late at night." "Yeah, maybe," I muttered, but my gut twisted. I tried to ignore him, focusing on stacking boxes, but every few minutes I caught sight of him through the corner of my eye. He wasn't doing anything illegal, nothing aggressive. Yet something about the way he moved, slow and deliberate, made me uneasy. By 10:30 p.m., Maya noticed him too. She tugged at my sleeve. "Nolan, that guy, he's been staring at us for a while, now." I glanced over. Sure enough, the man had paused near the frozen foods aisle, just looking around. Not at products, not at prices, just staring. Clara overheard and muttered, "Call it in if you're worried. We've got cameras." I shook my head. "Not yet. Let's see if he buys something." But he didn't. Why, the situation escalated. I was walking past the snack aisle toward the rear loading doors when I saw him slip behind a display of paper towels. He was crouched now, peering through a gap at the main floor. I froze. "Did you see that?" I whispered to Marcus. Marcus swallowed hard. "Yeah, he's hiding." I felt my pulse spike. My mind raced. In every horror movie, this was the part where someone thought, "He's harmless, it's fine," and it never ended fine. I ducked behind a stack of cardboard boxes, whispering to Marcus, "Should we call the cops?" He shook his head. "Let's not blow it up yet. Clara's got eyes on the cameras. Let's see what she says." I hesitated. Clara's voice came over the radio. "Nolan, Maya. Yeah, he's been following you on the cameras for the last 20 minutes. Doesn't look like he's picking anything up. Just walking around." Maya shivered. "He's creepy. I don't like it." "Me neither," I admitted. My hands were shaking slightly. By 11:20 p.m., he appeared near the frozen foods again, but this time he wasn't crouching. He was standing upright facing me. Our eyes met. The man's face was pale, gaunt, his eyes almost too large. A smile stretched across his lips, slow and deliberate. I couldn't breathe. Nolan?" Maya's voice trembled. He's coming this way. I felt panic rising, the kind that makes your stomach churn and your legs feel like lead. Marcus muttered something under his breath and moved toward the fire exit near the back. I followed, careful not to attract attention. The man didn't move fast. He didn't need to, but he shifted in a way that made my skin crawl. We made it to the back exit and pushed the door open quietly. I prayed no one else was around, but the night air hit me like relief. The man didn't follow immediately. We bolted to the parking lot, hearts pounding. "Where's the van?" Maya gasped, looking around. I froze. Across the lot, half hidden by a row of shopping carts, was a van. White, beaten up, streaks of red and blue paint running along its sides. It looked familiar. Too familiar. My stomach dropped. Marcus whispered, "That's the guy." I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears. I fumbled for my keys. Clara's voice came over the walkie. "Nolan, he's moving toward the lot. Get to your car, now." I sprinted. My legs burned, my lungs screamed, and Mia stumbled behind me. Marcus was already at his car, fumbling to unlock it. I jumped in mine, locked the doors, and turned the key. The engine roared through the rearview mirror. I saw him step out of the shadows. He grinned again, holding something shiny in his hand. "A knife! Go!" Marcus shouted from the car beside me. I slammed my foot on the gas. The van engine roared, to life behind him. He ran toward the car's knife raised, but we were already moving. My tires squealed on the asphalt as I swerved out of the lot and onto the highway. I didn't stop until I hit the interstate nearly 20 minutes later. My hands were trembling so badly I couldn't grip the wheel properly. I called Clara over the radio. Did he get in the van?" "Yeah," she replied, her voice calm but strained. "He drove off. Police were dispatched, but he's probably long gone. You need to take a break, Nolan." I pulled over at the next gas station, trembling, gasping for air. Ma sat in the passenger seat, pale, quiet. Marcus had stopped a mile down the road to calm himself. We sat there for half an hour trying to catch our breath. He was waiting for us," Maya whispered. I saw him just standing, smiling. I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, I think he's been watching the store for a while. Maybe following us specifically tonight." "Why us?" Marcus asked, voice shaky. "I don't know," I admitted, but he was focused, obsessed. I've never seen eyes like that. Something was off. We eventually drove home, taking the long route to avoid the interstate near the warehouse. Nothing followed us, but the tension didn't leave me for weeks. I filed a report with the local police providing a detailed description of the van, the man, and the time. They said they'd check security footage from nearby businesses, but as expected, nothing concrete came of it. After that night, Costco nights weren't the same. Every creak of the overhead lights, every shadow near the aisles made my skin crawl. I kept my walkie on, my eyes on the cameras, and I never worked alone after dark again. Maya eventually transferred to another store. Marcus started switching shifts, and Clara, well, she just shook her head whenever I mentioned it. I still think about him sometimes. The van, the smile, the knife. I imagine him waiting in the shadows at some other warehouse some other night, watching, following. And I know one thing for sure. I will never forget that night. No one should have to feel that helpless, that terrified in a place they thought was safe. Costco was supposed to be mundane, ordinary, and predictable. That night it wasn't. I never thought I'd spend the night inside a Costco, but back in February of 2020, I did exactly that with my girlfriend, soon-to-be fiancée. And to this day, I still can't fully explain what we experienced. My name's Aaron. I grew up outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in a neighborhood where Friday nights meant hanging out at Sheetz and Saturdays meant going to Costco with your parents, because that was the only place you could get a year's worth of toilet paper and a hot dog for $1.50. Costco wasn't just a store for me. It was kind of like, I don't know, a background character in my life. My dad bought our first flat screen there. My mom insisted the sheet cakes were better than any bakery. And when I was a broke college kid, that food court pizza slice basically kept me alive. By the time I hit my late 20s, I was still going there out of habit. But in early 2020, something strange happened. Something I can still feel every time I drive past that particular warehouse. At the time, I was dating Laya. She was 2 years younger than me, finishing up nursing school. We'd been together for about 3 years, and people around us kept asking when I was going to make it official. The truth, I wanted to. I just hadn't figured out how. I'm not some romantic movie guy who can set up rose petals on the beach. I'm the guy who forgets to put the laundry from the washer into the dryer. But Laya loved me anyway. She had this dry humor, the kind of person who'd tease me at my lowest and then hug me right after. She used to say, "Aaron, you'd probably marry Costco if you could." Funny how those words ended up becoming the weirdest inside joke of our lives. That Sunday, February 16th, 2020, right before the world turned upside down, we'd gone to Costco in Maple Glen, about 20 minutes from our apartment. It was a lazy day. We'd slept late, skipped breakfast, and decided to run errands. The parking lot was chaos. Costco lots always feel like some kind of survival arena, people fighting over carts and spots. I finally parked near the cart returns, and Leia, sipping her iced coffee, smirked and said, "You know you love this place more than me, right?" I shot back without thinking. "Nah, but I'd marry you here if they'd let me." And in that weird, unscripted moment, I felt this surge in my chest. Before I could second-guess myself, I pulled the tiny ring box from my glove compartment. I'd been carrying it for weeks, waiting for some perfect setup I'd never get around to planning. Her eyes went wide. "Aaron, no. You're not serious, right now?" I grinned nervously. "I am. Marry me. Right here next to the carts." For a second, she covered her mouth like she might laugh. Then her eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, you idiot. Yes." So there we were, engaged in a Costco parking lot. People pushing carts around us, some dude yelling at his kids, the smell of hot dogs wafting through the cold February air. Perfect in its own ridiculous way. Inside, as we were walking past the pharmacy, I saw a sign taped to one of the pillars. Big bold red letters, new exclusive overnight stay, Maple Glen Costco, $89 per couple. I thought it was a joke, but no. The flyer explained it. As part of a limited pilot program, members can book an overnight stay in one of our converted office suites. Experience the quiet side of Costco. Includes food court vouchers and early shopping access. I nudged Laya. "Babe, you realize what this means?" She raised an eyebrow. "That you can finally sleep with your true love. These giant cement walls." "No," I said, "it means we got engaged in a Costco parking lot and now we can spend our first night as fiancé inside one." She laughed so hard she snorted. "That is possibly the dumbest idea you've ever had, which is saying something." But she agreed. Around 9:00 p.m. after the store closed, we came back. They had a side door near the tire center open for overnight guests. There were maybe 4 other couples checking in. A Costco manager with a red vest handed out key cards and gave a quick orientation. "Your rooms are upstairs in the office wing," she said. "No wandering the warehouse floor after midnight. Safety reasons, if you need anything, call the front desk phone. Breakfast is at 7 a.m. in the food court. Enjoy your stay." The hallway upstairs looked nothing like Costco. Beige carpet, fluorescent lights, plain white doors. Our room was at the end. Inside, one king bed, a recliner, a broken TV on the dresser, and weirdly a huge utility tub like something left over from when the space used to be a break room. We were exhausted from the day, so we just grabbed pizza slices and churros downstairs, then collapsed in bed. The hum of the refrigerators downstairs was the only sound. I don't know what time it was when I woke up. Probably close to 2:30 a.m. I'd been drifting in and out when I heard it, a sharp hollow clattering like a pencil slowly rolling down metal. Clink, clink, clink. I jolted upright. Laya stirred. "What? You hear that?" She squinted, half asleep. Probably something on the counter. There was a counter by the tub with some random junk left behind. Pens, maybe. I convinced myself it was just something rolling off. But in the morning when we packed up, I checked. The counter was spotless. No pens, no pencils, no desk, no slanted surface where anything could have rolled. I felt this weird chill. Didn't mention it to her. We decided to stay a second night because why not? It was only 89ers. That evening we had dinner at a diner across the street, then came back and filled the tub with steaming hot water, laughing about how it felt like our own personal hodering inside a Costco. We were tipsy, splashing around when it hit. A loud screech of microphone feedback, that sharp static hum echoing through the concrete walls. Leia froze. "Aaron, what the hell was that?" Before I could answer, we heard it again. A distorted ho-ho, someone blowing into a microphone. My heart slammed in my chest. I jumped out, dripping water everywhere, yanking a towel around myself. "There's no intercom up here," I muttered, scanning the ceiling. The only speaker was a dead Bluetooth unit. Nothing connected, no vents, no wiring. The sound had come from inside the walls. The next morning at breakfast, I asked the membership desk casually, "Hey, did you guys have maintenance crews using the PA last night?" The girl blinked. No, sir. The intercom shuts down at 10 p.m. We don't use it overnight ever." "Nope. Power's cut." She tilted her head. "Why?" I forced a laugh. "Just thought I heard something." "Never mind." But my skin crawled. A week later at home, the curiosity ate me alive. I emailed Costco corporate asking about the Maple Glen location's history. The reply shocked me. "That building? It used to be a telephone switchboard factory back in the 1940s, one of the biggest in Pennsylvania. Rows of operators at long metal tables plugging wires, calling out across the plant, making announcements over a PA system that snaked through the concrete walls. During a remodel in the 90s, they'd found old PA wires still sealed inside the walls. They'd never bothered ripping them out. Suddenly it all clicked. The rolling sound, the microphone feedback, the breathy blow into the mic. Not ghosts, not people, just echoes. Residual sounds burned into the concrete, a building remembering itself. I never told Hila everything, just enough to make her agree not to book one of those overnight stays again. We still shop at Costco. We still laugh about how I proposed in the parking lot. But whenever I walk past the tire center door, I swear I feel a vibration in the air. And sometimes when I'm pushing a cart down those echoing aisles, I think I hear it again. That soft, deliberate sound. Clink, clink, clink. Like a pencil rolling. Endlessly down a metal desk in a room that doesn't exist anymore. And I wonder if late at night when the warehouse is empty and dark, the walls keep talking to themselves, remembering. I never thought working a night shift at a Costco would change how I felt about being alone in a big empty space. But that was before the night everything went sideways. My name is Leia Harper. I grew up in a small town outside of Dayton, Ohio, a place where everyone knew your name and your business. My parents run a diner downtown, and I've got an older brother, Seth, who's just a few years older than me. He's always been a little protective, the type to hover without realizing it. At the time this happened, I was 23, just finishing. But my first year out of college, working retail to save up for grad school, night shifts were the easiest to snag. And since I'm more of a night owl anyway, it seemed like a perfect fit. It started like any other Wednesday evening. I pulled into the Costco parking lot at 9:45 p.m., just as the sun fully gave way to the summer darkness. The air was sticky, the kind that makes your hair cling to your neck and your shirt feel damp, even inside a car with the AC barely holding on. My little sedan coughed to a stop, and I reached for my badge and keys, grumbling under my breath about the weird flickering lights in the lot. Man, this place looks creepy. Even before I get in, I muttered, slinging my bag over my shoulder. Waved at the security guard, a lanky guy named Darren who always sat in the little booth near the entrance. He waved back lazily. I didn't mind. I knew the drill. Nights were quiet for the most part, except for the occasional loud cart crash or some kid dragging their parents down the frozen aisle. Inside, the store smelled of cardboard, cleaning solution, and the faint tang of industrial food. The bright overhead lights cast long, harsh shadows across the wide aisles. I clocked in, waved to Maya, the overnight stock manager, and grabbed my cart. "Lila, you got the south aisle tonight," Maya said, her voice echoing off the high ceilings. She was efficient, sharpied, and had been at this longer than anyone else on the night shift. "Try not to get lost in the pallets again." I chuckled even, though I knew she was half serious. I'd gotten lost in this store before. It's massive, like a labyrinth of fluorescent lit aisles, pallet stacks, and towering shelves. "I got it, boss. Don't worry," I said, heading toward the south end. It started normal enough. I was restocking paper towels, singing quietly to myself, and occasionally glancing at my phone to check messages from Seth. He was always texting me, making sure I wasn't haunted by any Costco ghosts, as he liked to joke. By 11 p.m., I was halfway down aisle 12 when I noticed the first weird thing. A man just standing there between the shelves of frozen meat, staring. He looked out of place, not because he was shopping late. Lots of people did, but because he wasn't pushing a cart, he wasn't holding anything. Just standing motionless, froze. Hello," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. No response. He just turned his head slightly, and that was enough. My skin crawled. I kept moving, pretending not to notice, but I was on edge. By the time I reached the end of the aisle, I glanced back. He was gone. Just gone. "Okay, weird," I muttered. I tried to shake it off, focusing on my job. That's when the noises started. A faint dragging sound behind me. I stopped, listening. Nothing. Maybe it was a cart rolling in the distance. I continued stalking, but every few minutes I felt like something was following me. A shadow moving in the corner of my eye. The warehouse was huge, but the night made it feel even emptier. Around midnight, I took a break near the front, leaning against a pallet of bottled water. I texted Seth. "Everything fine here? Aisle 12 is giving me the creeps, though." His reply came almost immediately. "Don't get scared. You're overthinking. Just keep your phone on, okay?" I nodded to myself, though he wasn't there. When I returned to aisle 12, the air felt colder. Not a draft, but a deep, sudden chill, like stepping into a walk-in freezer that hadn't been running. My skin prickled. That's when I saw him again. This time he was crouched behind a pallet. When he stood, he was just too tall. His arms hung low and his head tilted unnaturally. I swallowed hard. "Sir, do you need help?" My voice shook. No answer. Just a slow, deliberate step toward me. My stomach dropped. I fumbled my walkie-talkie, nearly dropping it, and pressed the button to call. "Maya. Maya, I think there's someone in aisle 12, I whispered, barely able to breathe, static. "Then Laya, who? Where are you exactly?" Near the frozen meat, there's someone else here." "I think there." Before I could finish, the man moved faster than I thought possible, slapping a hand against a nearby shelf, sending cans clanging to the floor. My scream echoed through the cavernous space. "Ila." What the Maya's voice came through sharp and panicked now. I bolted down the aisle, my cart rattling behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. My heart was hammering, my breath sharp and loud. I had to get to the front doors, had to get outside, had to. I skidded around a corner and nearly collided with a coworker, Daniel Laya. "What the hell is wrong?" he shouted. "There's someone in the store." I gasped, clutching his arm. "A guy. He's... We both froze. Ahead. Between the stacks of TVs and mattresses he stood. Same tall, pale, unnatural man now blocking the path. He tilted his head, grinning. "Step aside." I hissed at Daniel, though my voice was trembling. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Run!" We both sprinted toward the back exit near the loading docks. The warehouse floor felt endless, every echo magnifying our panic. I could hear him behind us now, slow footsteps, but louder than normal, almost deliberate. We reached the loading docks. Normally the doors were locked, but miraculously one of the overheads had been left cracked. Daniel shoved me through. We ran across the asphalt lot. The summer night was sticky and dark. the fluorescent light from the building barely illuminating our path. Behind us, I could swear I saw him watching, just standing there, grinning. Then he vanished. We didn't stop running until we reached Daniel's truck. I fumbled with the keys, hand shaking violently. "Call the cops," I demanded. He had already dialed 911. The operator's voice was calm, reassuring, but every second felt like hours. When the police arrived, they searched the lot, the surrounding streets, even the adjacent highway. But there was no one, nothing. Just us, breathing hard, soaked in sweat, terrified beyond reason. Maya arrived shortly after, having driven over, herself. She pulled me aside. "What happened in there?" I shook my head. I don't know. He was wrong, Maya. Not right in the head. I swear he was. She nodded slowly. "You did the right thing. You ran. That's all that matters." The police left, still skeptical. They said maybe it was someone playing a prank, or that I'd seen a reflection, or my favorite, my imagination. But I knew what I saw. That man, whatever he wasn't normal. After that night, I never stayed alone in the store. Maya adjusted my schedule so I always had a partner. Seth refused to let me drive anywhere alone after work, and I started checking the lot and aisles multiple times before even thinking about starting a shift. Weeks later, we found out something weird. Another night worker in a different city branch reported seeing the same kind of figure. No one could explain it. Security cameras never caught him. Even now, I avoid aisle 12, the frozen section, the south end, any dark corner of the store. Every time I drive past that stretch of highway leading out of Dayton to my parents' town, my palms sweat just thinking about it. I know it sounds insane. People will call me paranoid, say it's stress, night shifts messing with my brain, but I know what I saw. And I know the fear I felt that night wasn't just in my head. There's something about the emptiness of a place that's supposed to be full of life. Something about fluorescent lights and high ceilings that shouldn't feel oppressive, but do. Something about a man impossibly tall, quiet until he's not, who makes you question if you'll ever get home safe. That night at Costco changed me. It made me realize how vulnerable we are when the world is asleep. And even though I've returned to the store countless times, worked countless shifts, I can't shake it. The image of him standing there with that grin is burned into my memory. Sometimes when the store is quiet and I'm alone, I swear I can feel him watching, waiting. And I wonder if one day he'll be back. I've never thought of myself as superstitious. I'm a practical man. Always have been. Maybe that comes from the way I grew up. My dad worked long shifts as a truck mechanic. My mom was a part-time librarian, and together they raised me and my two sisters in a small town in southern Washington called Brookhaven. It wasn't one of those places you see on TV with white picket fences and parades every holiday. Brookhaven was the kind of town where people worked, paid their bills, and minded their business. If your car broke down, your neighbor might help you push it out of the road, but nobody was hanging out on front porches together. Still, we had our own family routines. My mom, God rest her soul, was religious about her shopping schedule. Every Saturday morning, she'd have her handwritten list, groceries, cleaning supplies, toiletries, whatever we needed for the week, and she'd load us into her old green minivan. Same time, same store. Back then, it was a Safeway, not a Costco, but the ritual stuck. She'd say, "If you plan right, you don't have to stress later." That line has been etched in me ever since. Now I'm 37, working maintenance at a lumber yard outside Portland. And even though my parents are long gone, I still follow my mom's rule. Plan right, don't stress later. For me, that means shopping trips on Saturdays, usually late in the day, when the crowds thin out. And for the past 8 years, my go-to has been the Costco off I-205. That place has practically been my second home. I buy everything there. Bulk packs of socks, detergent, ground beef, and especially bottled water. I know. Everyone tells me I should just get a filter, but I got hooked on this one brand Costco carried. Clear River Springs. Something about it just tasted cleaner. The label said it was mineral enriched, triple purified from glacial runoff. Probably just marketing fluff, but hell, once you get used to something, it's hard to let it go. Co-workers at the yard used to ree me about it. "Yo, Ben," my buddy Carl would say, grinning as I carried a case into the break room. "You hydrating for the Olympics or what?" I'd laugh it off. "Better than you drinking Mountain Dew all day, man." It was all harmless. My water was my thing. The Saturday happened. I wasn't even planning a big haul. I'd spent most of the morning tightening up some shelves in my garage, sorting old tools, tossing broken junk into a bin for the dump. By the time I looked at my phone, it was already close to $300 p.m. The sun was beating down hotter than usual for early May. That dry kind of heat that sticks to your shirt. I figured I'd make a Costco run before grabbing some dinner. I made a quick list on my phone. Trash bags, chicken thighs, pack of undershirts, clear River Springs water, that was it. 4 things in and out. When I pulled into the Costco lot, though, I knew immediately something felt off. The lot was jammed. Cars circling like vultures. Families hustling carts across lanes without looking. A couple arguing loudly next to a minivan. Normally, Saturdays could be busy, but this wasn't just busy. This was chaos. I ended up parking way in the back near the cart corral. As I got out, I noticed the air felt sharp somehow, like the sound of slamming trunks and beeping locks carried a little too clearly. The hair on my arms prickled. "Don't be dramatic," I muttered to myself. "It's just crowded." I grabbed a cart and walked toward the sliding glass doors. Inside, it was worse. The noise hit first. Babies crying, carts squeaking, people shouting to one another. It felt like a madhouse. I nearly backed out right then, but I told myself to suck it up. 4 things in and out. I started with the trash bags and easy. Then I cut over toward the meat section, weaving past a woman yelling at her teenage son to put back a video game. I tossed some chicken thighs into the cart, then grabbed a pack of undershirts on my way toward the back of the store. That's when I saw it. A display of clear River Springs, stacked about chest high at the end of aisle. But it was almost empty. Maybe 8 cases left. That sinking feeling hit me. It wasn't unusual for it to sell out by the end of the weekend, but this was earlier than usual. I hurried over and grabbed 2 cases, stacking them at the bottom of my cart. "Perfect," I whispered. Then I froze because out of the corner of my eye I saw him. He was standing 2 aisles over, tall, broad shoulders, late 40s maybe. His hair was cropped close, more gray than black, and he wore an old navy work shirt stained at the sleeves. But what made my stomach twist wasn't his face. It was his carts. 2 of them, both stacked high with clear River Springs. Not 10 or 20 cases, I mean stacked to tipping like he'd raided the back storage himself. Our eyes met, and something in his stare made my throat go dry. I pushed my cart forward, trying to ignore him, but then his voice cut through the noise. "Hey," I pretended not to hear. "Hey, you with the water?" I stopped, my hand still gripping the cart handle. Slowly, I turned. "Yeah." He nodded toward the 2 cases in my cart. "You mind leaving those?" "I need them." I blinked, half smiling like it was a joke. I kind of need them too. It's the only brand I drink." His face tightened. Not anger exactly. More like expectation. "I'll pay you for them." I shook my head. "I'm good, man." He moved one of his carts into my path, blocking me. "Come on, don't be a dick about it." My pulse picked up. "Look," I said, "you've got more than enough there. Leave some for the rest of us." His jaw twitched. His voice dropped lower. "You don't understand, I need all of them." Something about the way he said it, flat, almost pleading, made my stomach knot. "Sorry," I muttered, pushing forward. My cart bumped his. For a moment I thought he was going to swing at me. His eyes went sharp, dark, but then just as quick he stepped back, knuckles white on the handle. I hurried away, heart pounding. The rest of my trip was a blur. I grabbed a couple of odds and ends and made a beeline for the registers. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting him to be following me, but I didn't see him. At the checkout, I unloaded my stuff, paid, and rushed toward the exit. Outside, the lot was still packed, but quieter now. The sun had dipped low, throwing long shadows across the asphalt. I loaded my bags into the trunk, saving the water for last. That's when I heard footsteps, slow, heavy behind me. I turned. It was him. Same guy, same dead stare. "Told you I needed those," he said. Before I could react, he reached into my trunk, grabbed both cases of water and bolted. "Hey, what the hell?" I shouted, dropping my phone onto the pavement. I sprinted after him, weaving between cars. He moved faster than a man his size should have, hauling the water toward a beat-up gray Suburban parked crooked near the exit. "No. Plates." He threw the cases in the back and slid into the driver's seat. "Stop, give them back," I yelled, running behind the vehicle. For a split second, we locked eyes in the rear view. The reverse lights flared. He floored it. I dove sideways, the bumper grazing my leg as the Suburban shot backward. It tore out of the lot and onto the service road, vanishing in seconds. People came running. A woman screamed. Someone called security. By the time the cops arrived 20 minutes later, my heart still hadn't slowed. I gave them everything. Description, car, details. They nodded, promised to check the cameras. A manager, young guy, nervous, brought me antiseptic wipes for the scrape on my elbow. Offered me a free case of Kirkland water. I took it, hand still shaking, but I never heard back. Not from the cops, not from Costco. And a week later, Clear River Springs was gone completely. No explanation. Shelves where it used to be stood empty, then replaced with some generic brand. Rumors started. Some said contamination. Some said the supplier shut down. A couple folks swore they saw that same gray Suburban parked outside the Costco late at night just idling. Me? I don't know. But sometimes at 2 a.m. when the wind rattles my windows, I swear I hear that low rumble of an engine outside. And I always check my locks twice just in case. I never thought much about where I worked until that night. When you're 28, working stock at a Costco in a mid-sized town like Riverview, New Jersey, you don't expect excitement. Most days are the same. Lugging boxes, refilling shelves, answering. The occasional customer who can't find the salsa or toilet paper. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. I'd been working there for about 9 months, long enough to know the rhythms. Weekends were insane. Carts jammed shoulder to shoulder. People acting like the world would end if they didn't get their 12-pack of muffins. Weeknights, though, were different, especially close to closing. That's when the place felt huge and quiet. You'd hear your own footsteps echo on the polished concrete floors, see the fluorescent light stretch endlessly overhead, and realize how cavernous a warehouse store really is when it's mostly empty. I didn't mind the quiet. If anything, I liked it. I could zone out, get my last tasks done, and think about my life outside of work. That Wednesday started out like any other. I clocked in at 1 RPM sharp. It was always 1 hour to 9 bar for me, afternoon into evening shift. By the time I was clocking in, the morning crowd was thinning, and the place was calming into its slower midweek pace. I grabbed my vest, clipped on my name badge, Derek, and headed out to the floor. The first few hours flew by. I broke down, pallet, stocked paper goods, and helped a woman load a 50 lb bag of dog food into her cart. Nothing unusual. By the time 7:30 rolled around, I was tired. My back ached from moving cases of soda, and I was counting the minutes until closing. I was in aisle 19, the drink section. Anyone who's been in Costco knows those aisles. They go on forever. Stacked floor to ceiling with Gatorade, L'Aqua, sparkling waters, energy drinks. The air always smells faintly of cardboard and sugar. I was facing the shelves, aligning boxes so the rows looked neat when I noticed movement in my peripheral vision. At first I thought it was just another late shopper. But then I looked near the back of the aisle. Tucked behind a pallet of Monster Energy was a man crouched low. At first I thought I was seeing it wrong, the lighting playing tricks. Maybe just another box stacked weird. But no, it was a man, mid-40s, maybe older, dark hoodie pulled up over his head, jeans, sneakers. He was crouched down like a kid hiding during hide and seek. I froze, holding a case of L'Aqua in my hands. Can I help you find something? I called out, trying to keep my voice casual. No answer. The man didn't move. Didn't even twitch. I set the Laqua on the shelf, wiped my palms on my vest, and took a step closer. "Sir, the store's closing soon. You need help finding an item?" Still nothing, and then slowly he shifted, his head turned, and I saw his face under the hood, pale, expressionless, his eyes locked onto mine. My stomach knotted. It wasn't the look of someone embarrassed at being caught. It was colder than that. Then suddenly, he stood up, turned, and walked briskly down the aisle in the opposite direction. No words, no glance back. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "What the hell?" I muttered. I tried to shrug it off. Maybe he was just some weird customer. People did strange things all the time. Argued in aisles, opened packages they hadn't bought yet, let their kids climb into carts. But something about this guy unsettled me, the way he'd been crouched there watching. Still, I had a job to do. Over the next hour, I made rounds through frozen foods, dairy, and paper products. Things quieted even more as customers checked out and left. By 8:30, the store was technically closed, though a handful of U.S. employees were still inside finishing last-minute tasks. The place felt cavernous. The hum of the refrigerators seemed louder than usual. I was in aisle 24. Toilet paper and paper. Towels when I saw him again. This time he wasn't crouching, he was just standing there, middle of the aisle. No cart, no items in his hands. Just standing perfectly still, facing the shelves. My skin prickled. "Sir," I called out, trying to sound firm. "The store is closed. You'll need to head to the front and check out." Silence. Then, without a word, he turned his head toward me. I swear my chest tightened instantly. His face was expressionless, his arms hanging stiff by his sides. Then he stepped sideways, slow, deliberate, and slipped behind a stack of paper towel pallets. Gone. I froze where I stood, pulse thawing in my ears. "All right." "Nope," I muttered, backing away. I walked quickly down the aisle and made straight for the front of the store. By the time I clocked out and grabbed my backpack, most of the other employees had already left. The store lights were dimming in sections as the closing crew shut things down. I was relieved to step outside into the cool night air. The parking lot stretched out under orange street lamps. My old Honda Civic was parked near the far end. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and started walking. That's when I felt it. That unmistakable sensation like eyes boring into your back. I glanced over my shoulder and there he was, the man in the hoodie standing near the entrance watching me. My mouth went dry. I turned back and walked faster. The sound of my footsteps on the asphalt seemed way too loud. Then I heard another sound. Footsteps behind me. Slow at first, then quicker. I turned my head just enough to see him. He was following me, not casually heading in the same direction. Following me. "Shit," I whispered. I gripped my keys tighter in my hand, the little metal teeth biting into my palm. I picked up my pace. So did he. Then I heard it, the sudden burst of running. I spun around. He was sprinting at me full speed. "Hey, get away from me!" I shouted, but my voice cracked with fear. I bolted for my car, heart hammering in my chest, my keys fumbled in my sweaty hand as I ran. His footsteps pounded the pavement behind me. Closer, closer. I reached my Civic, jammed the key into the lock, and yanked the door open. I threw myself inside and slammed it shut just as he reached me. Click. Locked. He yanked at the driver's side handle. The whole car shook as he pulled. Then he darted to the back door, trying that. 1, 2, leave me alone. I yelled, fumbling to start the engine. Finally, the car roared to life. I threw it into reverse, tires squealing as I peeled backward out of the space. He stepped back, standing in the glow of the street lamp, just watching me, expressionless, unmoving. I sped out of the lot. I glanced in the rear view. He was still, standing there, watching. On the drive home, I called the cops. They listened, took down my report, but basically shrugged. Unless he assaulted you or trespasses again, there's not much we can do. The next day, I told my manager, Rick, about it. Jesus, he muttered, rubbing his face. You're not the first one to mention him. What do you mean? I asked. Rick hesitated. Couple other employees said they've seen a guy like that, hanging around too long, not buying anything, always hiding in the aisles. They pulled the security footage and sure enough, there he was on camera. The man wandered the store for hours, from 3 p.m. until closing, always slipping behind pallets, crouching near boxes, avoiding direct interaction. He never picked up a single item, never went to checkout. And the creepiest part, around 8:45, after customers were gone, the footage showed him standing at the far end of an aisle, completely still for almost 15 minutes, just standing there waiting. Then the cameras lost him. One frame he was there, the next he wasn't. No one saw him leave. Rick tightened security after that. Extra cameras, more floor checks, but he never came back, at least not inside. 2 weeks later, I was leaving after a late shift. The lot was empty except for a few cars. As I walked to my Civic, I glanced across the street. There, under a flickering streetlight, was a gray sedan, and in the driver's seat, him put up, hands gripping the wheel, watching me. I froze, every nerve screaming at me to run. But before I could move, the car engine revved. And then slowly it pulled away, disappearing into the dark. I haven't seen him since. But every time I park in that lot, every time I walk through the aisles close to closing, I feel it. That same prickling at the back of my neck, like maybe he's still there hiding, waiting. And some nights when I get home, I swear I see headlights pause outside my apartment before moving on. I've always been a creature of habit. I'm the kind of guy who takes comfort in patterns, waking up at the same time every morning, brewing the same dark roast coffee, sitting in the same corner booth at my local diner on Saturdays. People have called me boring for it, but to me, routine isn't dull. It's safe. Predictability is like armor against the chaos of life. Back in 2019, I was living in a quiet town called Fairhaven, about 45 minutes outside Chicago. Fairhaven wasn't anything special. Lots of split-level houses, chain stores, cul-de-sacs where kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on. The kind of place where the most exciting gossip was whether a new Starbucks was opening near the interstate exit. And that was fine by me. I'd been there about 2 years, renting a 2-bedroom apartment above a dry cleaner. My roommate was my longtime friend, Hannah Rodis. We met in college during a group project neither of us cared about and bonded over mutual sarcasm and late-night fast food runs. After graduation, when our separate relationships imploded and rent in the city became insane, moving in together in Fairhaven felt like the right reset. Life there was steady, normal. And every Sunday without fail, Hannah and I drove to Costco. We'd make a ritual out of it. Bulk groceries, snack samples, maybe a food court stop before heading home. It wasn't just shopping, it was our reset button for the week. I know that sounds silly, but when life is predictable, even Costco feels like tradition. I never imagined that routine would unravel into the most terrifying night of my life. That October Sunday started quietly. The leaves outside my bedroom window were turning deep orange and I could hear the hum of traffic drifting in from the main road. I rolled out of bed around noon. Hannah always teased me for being a late sleeper on weekends and shuffled into the kitchen. She was already there, sitting cross-legged on the counter, in sweats eating cereal out of a mug instead of a bowl. "You, alive?" she asked, raising her eyebrows. "Barely," I grumbled, grabbing the coffee pot. "What time are we hitting Costco?" She shrugged. I was thinking 3-ish. We're running low on literally everything. Also, I need that giant jar of peanut butter again. "Don't judge me, you and your peanut butter obsession," I muttered. "It's protein," she said defensively. "Don't hate." That was us. Comfortable, teasing, ordinary. We spent the next couple of hours doing our separate things. She went jogging. I half-heartedly cleaned. The living room then played around with a new campaign pitch I was supposed to present at work. By 3:15, we were in Hannah's old Jeep Grand Cherokee pulling out of the lot behind our building. She cranked up the radio, some throwback 2000s hits, and we sang along badly, laughing at each other. I remember the crispness in the air, that early hint of winter where you can smell wood, smoke in the neighborhoods. Fairhaven was one of those towns where fall actually felt like fall. The Costco sat just off Route 92, a massive beige box surrounded by an ocean of asphalt. Even from the road, you could see the chaos. Cars circling for spaces, shopping carts, scattered like landmines. Jesus, Hannah muttered as we pulled in. It's like a damn carnival out here. Ryuf, I reminded her. We always park in row F. Yeah, Mr. Routine. Watch us have to park in Timbuktu today. But luck was on our side. We found a spot about halfway down row F, squeezed between a beat-up Ford truck and a shiny black SUV. Hannah cut the engine and exhaled. Okay, let's do this thing, she said. Inside, it was the usual madness. Bright fluorescent lights buzzing. Overhead, the smell of rotisserie chickens drifting from the deli section. Kids wailing near the toy aisle. We grabbed a cart and started weaving through the maze of towering shelves. Do we need more toilet paper? Hannah asked. Yes, I said automatically. We always need more toilet paper, she rolled her eyes. You're like a doomsday prepper without the paranoia. We filled the cart. Bulk cereal, chicken breasts, frozen pizzas, detergent, a case of Laqua for Hannah, a tub of trail mix for me. At one point, she tried to toss in a giant pack of Pop-Tarts. Put those back, I said. Don't tell me how to live my life, she shot back, grinning. It was routine, familiar, comforting. By the time we checked out, the sun was sinking low, streaking the sky outside in shades of golden purple. You grabbing? Food court? Hannah asked as we loaded the last of the groceries onto the belt. Yeah, pizza slice and a soda. Perfect. I'll meet you at the car. Text me if you get lost. I smirked. We park in row F, remember? She stuck her tongue out at me and pushed the cart toward the exit. I grabbed my food, 2 greasy pizza slices, a hot dog for Hannah, 2 drinks, and balanced it all on a flimsy cardboard tray. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but with both hands full, I ignored it. By the time I stepped outside, dusk had settled in. The lot was still packed, headlights cutting across lanes, but it felt quieter. Somehow the chatter of families and clatter of carts had thinned. I started toward row F. That's when I noticed him, a man. He was standing near a cart return maybe 30 yards away, tall, lanky, wearing a dark hoodie with the hood pulled up. His posture was strange, rigid, unmoving, and he was staring directly at me. I quickened my pace, trying not to look back. Probably nothing. Just some guy waiting for a ride. But the way he didn't move, didn't shift his weight, didn't glance away. It crawled under my skin. When I reached row F, my heart sank. The Jeep wasn't there. I frowned, set the tray on the curb, and pulled out my phone. 4 missed calls, 3 texts from Hannah, some guys following me. I'm in the car. He tried the door handle. I'm driving around. Call me now. I froze. Then I looked up. The man in the hoodie was gone. I dialed Hannah immediately. It rang twice before she answered, her voice sharp with panic. Where the hell are you? She demanded. I'm in row F. Where are you? I'm driving laps around the lot. That guy, I swear to God, he tried to open the car door while I was loading the groceries. My chest tightened. What the are you safe? I locked the doors, but he kept pulling at the handle. I freaked out and floored it. I don't see him now. But a car horn blared on her end. Hang on. Some just cut me off. I scanned the lot, spinning, in place. Cars moved in every direction, headlights glaring, but no sign of Hannah's Jeep. Where exactly are you? I asked. Near the back rows by the loading dock. I'm coming to you. Just keep moving. I grabbed the tray, abandoned it on a random bumper, and started jogging. My heart hammered with every step. The lot felt endless. Every row the same. Every shadow a threat. Then I saw him again, the man in the hoodie. This time he was standing at the end of row G, closer. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, head tilted slightly like he was studying me. I turned and bolted toward the loading dock. Hannah's Jeep appeared suddenly, headlights cutting across the asphalt. She swerved toward me, passenger, window rolling down. Get in, she yelled. I yanked the door open and scrambled inside, my chest heaved. "Did you see him?" I gasped. "Yeah," she said, gripping the wheel. "Tall guy, hoodie. He was just standing there when I turned around." Gave me the creeps. "He tried to get in your car?" She nodded, eyes wide. "I swear he did. I was putting bags in the trunk and he came up behind me. Didn't say a word, just reached for the handle like it was his car. I slammed it shut and jumped in. Thank God I locked it." My stomach churned. "Let's get thee out of here." She pressed the gas. We circled toward the exit, but the lot was gridlocked, cars inching forward, horns blaring. Then through the windshield I saw him again, standing in the crosswalk. Directly ahead, the man in the hoodie. His face was still obscured, but I could make out a faint grin. "Holy," Hannah whispered. He didn't move, just stood in the middle of the lane, forcing us to stop. "Run his ass over," I muttered. She shook her head. "I know. I can't." Other drivers started honking. One rolled down his window and shouted, "Move your car, lady." And then as suddenly as he appeared, the man stepped aside and melted into the crowd. We drove the rest of the way in silence. Back at the apartment, we locked every door, every window. Hannah collapsed on the couch, shaking. "What the hell was that?" she whispered. I didn't have an answer. For weeks after, we avoided Costco. We shopped at smaller stores, never went out after dark. Hannah jumped at shadows in the parking lot. I found myself scanning every face, every figure in a hoodie. We never saw him again, at least not there. A month later, Hannah found a folded piece of paper tucked under her windshield wiper. No words, just a crude drawing of two stick figures standing beside a car. One of the figures had its hand on the door handle. We called the cops, filed a report. Nothing ever came of it. But every Sunday when I drive past Costco, I can't help but look into that endless parking lot. And sometimes, just sometimes, I swear I still see him standing perfectly still, watching.